In this lecture, we will implement the template method design pattern. You are going to create the data renderer abstract class, which will have three methods. The render, which will be implemented in the data renderer. This method will not be overridden by the child classes. And it will have two abstract methods, read data and process data. Read data and process data will be overridden by the child classes. They will be abstract methods in the data renderer. The implementation will be provided by the child classes. So let's get started by going to STS, new, class, call it data renderer. And the package is com.bharat.patterns.template method. Finish. This data renderer is an abstract class because it's going to have abstract methods. We will make it abstract in a second. The first method is public void render. This is the only method the parent class is going to implement. The other two methods are abstract methods. Public abstract string read data. So this method is going to return a string as data. Public abstract string process data. This will take the data the read data method returns and it will process that data. So string data is the parameter. Since it has abstract methods, this class should be marked with abstract keyword. You can handle that by hitting Ctrl+1 on this method and make type data renderer abstract. Select the second option and abstract will be added on the class. Implement the render method. To implement it, first we need to call the read data method. Assign it to a variable, hit Ctrl+1, assign statement to a new local variable, call it data. Second, invoke process data and pass in the data that comes back from read data to it. Hit Ctrl+1, assign statement to a new local variable, call it processed data. So this data is processed now. Finally, we'll do a sysout processed data. We are simply displaying the processed data. In our case, the rendering is very simple, but in a complicated or sophisticated use case, this rendering could be displaying HTML or generating a UI in a different fashion. It could be an image as well. But in this case, we are simply using sysout and displaying the data. Next, we have to implement the child classes, which will provide the implementation for read data and process data. We are going to create two child classes, the XML data renderer and the CSV data renderer. Right click, new class, call it XML data renderer. Click on browse. The superclass for this will be our data renderer class. Select that, hit OK, finish. Automatically Eclipse or STS will generate the overridden methods. Hit Ctrl+D to delete the to do. These methods are going to be simple. We are simply going to return XML data in case of read data. In real-time applications, we would parse a XML file and return that data. That's not the key here. What you are learning here is how to implement the template pattern. That is the reason we are simply returning a string called XML data. And the process data, simply append a string called processed plus data. Whatever data is being passed in, to that we are appending a string called processed and we are returning it back. Again, in real time, we could process the XML data and do some calculations inside this processed data depending on the requirement we have. So that's our first renderer. The second renderer is very easy. Copy the XML data renderer, paste it on the same package, remove the 2 at the end, change the name to the second renderer we have is CSV, a text file or CSV data renderer. Hit OK. Open up the CSV data renderer. change it to CSV instead of XML, and that's the only change that is required. The process data will still remain the same. So in this lecture, you have successfully implemented the template method pattern, where the parent abstract class will have the implementation for a method. In this case, it is the render method. The parent class will call the child classes methods such as read data and process data. It then displays that data or renders that data. So this logic here will not change or will not be changed by the child classes, but they will implement the methods such as read data and process data.